Welcome to Breaking Financial Chains, where we combine practical money guidance with emotional healing to help you break free from financial limitations. I'm Tanya Riverson, your financial wingwoman.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Breaking Financial Chains, the podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about self-care and money, why your finances need attention to. So, I like to cover episodes in different themes, and this is in the theme of self-care, fulfillment, and money's role in happiness. So, this is whatever your income level is. Doesn't matter what situation you're finding yourself in. This is around empowerment. This is about starting to make the changes to be able to help yourself, to be able to give yourself more choices. Self-care isn't just bubble baths and yoga mats. It's logging into your bank account without flinching. It's about looking at credit card statements without starting to feel a little bit queasy. And reframing self-care as safety, stability, and sovereignty, not just relaxation. It can be about lighting candles, but why don't we combine the lighting of candles and having some nice relaxing music on whilst we're looking after our money? The ultimate in self-care for women in particular around financial empowerment is making sure that we have a plan and we have awareness around our finances. But let's face it, there are an awful lot of things that get in the way of managing our money, that might get into the way of some sort of a routine. First and foremost, it's boring, potentially a little bit overwhelming. There might be some other feelings in there. They might feel a bit shameful or fill us full of anxiety. Because it's easy to do, this is not rocket science. No amount of tracking of money is ever going to be complicated. But because it's easy to do, it's also very easy not to do, which is quite often the biggest problem. It's something that we can put off. It's something that, well, I can do that when the weather's not so nice. I can do that when the kids go back to school and I've got a bit more time. Or I can do that when the kids are in bed and I've got a bit more time, or whatever it might be. When something is easy to do, it is just as easy not to do it. And therefore, we quite often do just kick that can further down the road every single time we decide that it should be done. Another reason that we avoid it, many women carry guilt around money. They give more than they keep. They tend to have those patterns of behaviors. There tends to be an expectation of mum can fix that, particularly around other family members or children that might be looking to, can I have some money for this? I need new shoes. I need new uniform. My youngest daughter is a swimmer. We've just recently bought new goggles and she needs a snorkel because they're doing different underwater drills. And it just feels like there's a constant, I need new fins. I've lost my float. I need a new this. I need a new that. Constantly giving. The guilt around money, though, can stem from generational issues, can stem from generational trauma, it can stem from the fact that as women, we've only very recently been given the independence to have our own bank accounts, for example, to get a mortgage or borrow money in our own name. That only happened in the 1970s here in the UK. And as well as the guilt around money and giving more than we keep, we're often taught to prioritize other needs first, and our relationship with money quite often can reflect that. And if you're finding yourself in that position where that is what you tend to do, if you're feeling a little bit seen right now, then note that down. That can be the starting point of a conversation for yourself with a financial coach, with me, of a journal. I've actually started to notice where those patterns come from and what that means for you, what the impact and the knock-on effect is of continuing in that pattern of behavior. And it's no wonder then that you've got no money left at the end of the month, or you're continually going into an overdraft. But we should also consider what the hidden cost of avoidance is going to be. So if we continue to not do this work, if we continue to delegate it to someone else, if we continue to, it'll be fine, I'm just going to keep spending until there's no money left in the account, then we end up carrying the cost of avoidance instead. And that might look like constant anxiety, financial anxiety, low grade, little bit of a prickly feeling, that little bit of a worry that we're waking up in the morning, perhaps we're waking up in the night and it's money that we're thinking about that's always there, which comes from perhaps not having as much awareness or not having as much control as we might like. Another example of a hidden cost is financial disempowerment. You feel off, but you don't really know why, and you can't actually put your finger on anything. You can't answer any questions that someone might ask you, for example, in relation to your finances. You're asked if you want, you've got one of your friends is having a hen party and they want to go away for a few days as part of the hen party, and you instant got that prickly feeling of, I'm not sure if I can afford that. And I don't want to say that out loud to the group. I don't want to be the one to actually highlight that, but it's the feeling that you notice. And if we know, because we're on top of our finances, then we can take action accordingly. We can say, can't make that, or make plans to borrow the money to be able to not miss out if that's someone that's particularly important in your life. But not having that information and being disempowered means we can't make any decisions. It means that we might be feeling anxiety for no reason, or it might be for a good reason, and actually we need to take some positive practical steps to be able to change the outcome. Another cost, which I see all too often, particularly in women, is playing small in life or work because you're unsure if you can afford change. Settling for a job that you're not happy with because you're not sure if you can afford to retrain, for example, because the job, if you were to do that, would bring less money in. Also, more heartbreakingly, is not having the choice to be able to leave a relationship that you don't want to be in anymore. A controlling or abusive relationship, for example, not having the financial means is right up there in one of the top reasons why people stay, alongside the guilt and the feelings that you might have for that particular individual. But having the financial means to leave gives you another option rather than taking anything away. Managing your money as a form of care is it's an aspect of self-respect. Is certainly the way that I see it. From looking at what your future self might need in terms of financial requirements, in terms of when you might want to cut back on the hours that you work, when you want to start a family, or perhaps support your family as they expand their family, having grandchildren, for example, looking at retirement or later life planning. If we're not managing our money now and making decisions and positive steps towards achieving what we want to achieve, how can we expect our future self to be taken care of, to be financially secure, or to be able to have the lifestyle that you can envisage for yourself from a sort of standing back point of where you are right now? Having that vision can be super, super powerful to be able to help inform the habits and the decisions that you make in terms of what you do with your money now, so that you have the ability to do what you want with your money later. And future self is going to thank you for that by taking these small steps now. By using your finances as a way of self-care, by using your money as a way of showing yourself that this is important, you're telling yourself that you matter. I am important. I am worth it. I am allowed to have control, and I am allowed to take steps now to secure future me's future, to make sure that we have enough, to make sure that we can continue the lifestyle that we have now without making too many compromises. Financial calm can be, on a set of weighing scales, completely comparable and equal mental calm. Managing your finances doesn't need to be something that causes anxiety. There are lots of reasons that that can happen, which we can explore in different episodes within this podcast, and I can talk you through. And if you have any examples, by the way, I would love to hear. Please do give feedback and let me know if you any particular topics you want me to cover. That having that control quietens down the anxiety and gives you the very thing that we're striving for and seeking, which is calm. So, what does financial self-care look like in a practical sense? It looks like regular check-ins with your bank accounts, the boring stuff that is easy to avoid. Yes, it might be boring. Yes, there might be something more interesting to watch on Netflix, but how is it going to feel at the other side of completing these tasks when we're showing ourselves that we're worthy and important enough to actually do them? It's the same as keeping on top of the washing because you want to be able to have clean clothes to wear next week. It's the same as keeping on top of your fitness by going to the gym. That might be boring, that might be tedious, but we're looking and working towards an outcome. It's exactly the same with money. If we are looking and intending to have a future with a certain outcome, we need to be taking steps now. And that does not involve relying on a lottery win or marrying into money, as an example. That might happen, and that's a bonus if it does. But what we can do instead is take smaller steps now to make sure that that's much more of a actual possibility later in life. So, regular check ins with your accounts, tracking spending without judgment. This should not be an exercise with which to smack yourself over the head with because you feel you've made poor decisions. This is an exercise to notice patterns and notice where you have a feeling of, well, I wish I hadn't done that. I didn't get any enjoyment at all out of that takeaway, or I didn't get any enjoyment at all out of that night out that I got coerced into going on, even though I didn't really want to go or I couldn't afford to go, but I went anyway. Noticing that there are times or examples of situations or certain people that you're around where your behavior changes. Well, what can you do intentionally to protect future you to make a different choice now for a different outcome? Not judging yourself is super important. What we're looking for is specific patterns and habits and behaviors that we can choose to change consciously and with intention because we want to have a different outcome from feeling a certain way on a regular basis. Spending aligned with your values is another example of financial self care. So, doing the work to understand what your values are to then be able to say, yes, that spending is aligned with my values. No, that spending is not aligned with my values. Is that something that I can perhaps allocate a pot where I can spend some money on those certain things that maybe not aligned? Maybe they're a little bit frivolous, or it's just that I can do what I want, because sometimes it's really nice to feel as though you have some funds there to be able to have a takeaway if you want to have a takeaway, or buy a scratch card if that's what you want. If we're still providing for the other important things and we know that we're taking steps to make sure that we are aligned with some of the values, then maybe it's important to you to have a bit of a balance because sometimes it can be counterproductive to be too restrictive, dependent upon what's important to you. So, actually spending time and getting to know what's important and what you want to be spending money on and what you feel will be a waste is going to be really valuable an experience. You're going to have a really positive outcome to be able to make a conscious change of direction. The ultimate in financial self care is creating a cushion that gives you choices. Being able to say yes to a mini break because you've got a bit of a cushion there. Not needing to worry if there's some repair work needed on your car that when it goes in for a service and not needing to put that on a credit card. Knowing that you have the funds there to be able to, do you know what, I can cover that. And that feels really, really positive. It feels really good that I've been able to create a bit of a buffer. Making sure that you prioritize this as an empowered individual who wants to take care of their finances and wants to get on top of financial management and the financial direction that you want to go in is going to be really important. And that means that you need to give yourself permission to prioritize it over and above all of the other things that are making demands of your time. How important is it to you? What is it that you're going to change to make sure that you can make time to do it? Even if in the beginning that means watching a little bit less of Netflix, even if that means feeling really bold and saying to your other half, I actually don't want to sit down and watch TV now. I'm going to have half an hour on this first, and then I'm going to sit and spend some time with you. Or it might mean getting up an extra half an hour early every now and then to intentionally work through this exercise. because it's important to future you. And therefore, somehow, even with the busiest of people, we need to find the time to take care of it. Even if you've made mistakes, even if you earn less than your partner, even if you don't feel good with money, you are allowed to show up for yourself financially, messily, scribbled on a piece of paper rather than a fancy app or a spreadsheet. It doesn't matter how you do it. It's about, at least in the beginning, setting up the habit and showing yourself that I'm going to show up for myself regardless. In the same way as you might want to eat more protein, get more steps in, get more exercise, spend more time with family members, spend more time with an elderly neighbor, whatever it might be that's important to you, aligned with your values, saying to yourself that this is really important to me and therefore I deserve to spend time on it and something else has to give. And we can do that by creating mini money care rituals, which sounds super exciting. And this is very much how I look after the financial rituals in my life. I like to get super intentional. I like to put some nice music on. I love to light a candle. And every week, sit down. You can do it in 10, 15 minutes if it's something that you're doing on a regular basis and just checking in. What have I spent this week? Where have I spent outside of where I was expecting to spend and why? What was the reason for it and what were the triggers? Was it a mood that I was in? Was it the people that I was with? Was it circumstances or a particularly stressful day? Was it a really good day and therefore it was a celebratory kind of spend? Just acknowledging and noting down. Looking at the wins, celebrating small progress, not berating yourself if we're not necessarily ticking all of the boxes. Looking at apps that you could use. We could do an episode on different examples of apps that you might find useful. Some of them are great, some of them are not so great, some of them might work for you and some not for others. The important thing is to be aware that they're there and to try them, because we don't know if we don't try. And what might work for someone else might not work for you and vice versa. Somebody might tell you something is awful, but it might be exactly what you're needing because of the way that your brain works or the way that you find most useful to remember to repeat those habits that we need to put into place to put us in a position of feeling financially empowered, to reduce the financial anxiety and to have financial calm as a way of mental calm. So to wrap up, self-care isn't always soft cushions and blankets and lighting the fire. Sometimes self-care is serious. Sometimes self-care can be something that's so super important for you. Let's not forget that you might have people in your life that are watching your every move. What kind of an example can you set by showing your children this is what we do? This is a normal part of being a grown-up and managing our finances. We check in regularly. We set an intention for the week on a Sunday by looking at what we know we've got coming up financially and knowing how much spare cash we've got to play with, if any, and what we might want to do with it. What events we've got coming up, what things we might want to plan for in school holidays, for example. Ultimately, your money deserves attention because you do. And so for exactly the same reason that you might take care of other areas of your life, your finances and what your finances can mean for you in terms of empowerment and choices are right up there with all of the other priorities that you carry. So the big lesson, start small, start lovingly, but please stop. And I would love to hear any of your wins for you actually giving this a go. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you for joining me today on Breaking Financial Chains. Remember, you have the power to transform your relationship with money one step at a time. If this episode helped you, please subscribe and leave a review to help others find their path to financial freedom. I'm Tanya, your financial wing woman, and I'll see you next week.